Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Because we are getting close to these holy days, we are going to go over some of those things because I want you guys to, as we are getting close to those days, we need to go into those days having a good understanding of what it is we are about to partake of. And a lot of times, of course, you find a lot of people are interested in the Passover because they think that it's basically like Hebrew Easter, and they don't really understand what those things are all about. But it's not just that we're about to begin Passover. That is the beginning of our holy season, our season of holy days. So there's some things that we have to prepare for. So we're going to go over a few things concerning that. We also have a Bible trivia for today's sermon, and if you do not only the email addresses that I knew or I had, I email those. But if you have the questions or need the questions for today's sermon, send an email to theuci.org@gmail.com. We might need to end that. Let me redial. Says I think we're having a problem on the phone line. Sorry about that. But brother, won't you go ahead and read the oracles that we may entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence. And I'm checking the phone lines now.
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Messiah also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication, and all uncleanness, or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 through 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right. We're going to begin today's sermon in Exodus chapter 11. Exodus chapter 11, and we're going to read that through chapter 12 so that we get an understanding of the beginning of this set of holy days, what those things are all about. These are Yahweh's days that Yahweh has set as what was important unto him. So there are some things that I want us to go over. And I don't know if you guys missed that before. There is a set of questions. And if you guys have do not have those questions and want those emailed to you, please send your email address to the uci.org at gmail.com. Exodus chapter 11, and start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether.
All right. This lets us know, first of all, when there are things that Yahweh has ordained you to do, you cannot decide that, well, I'm not as, being successful in this thing, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it. Before Yahweh gave Moshe this charge, he had already told him, I need you to go talk to Pharaoh. But he ain't going to listen. So, in your common sense, because, we got that rare sense. That rare sense going to tell you, well, why am I even going anyway? He ain't going to listen. See, this is where following instructions is the difference between you getting thrown in that lake that burns with fire and brimstone. This could be your very salvation. But what happens is we end up getting the wrong focus. See, we think that our objective in talking to people is if, when they hear, I get my salvation. No, you got your salvation by doing the things that you was told to do. He had already told him he's not going to hear you. Nonetheless, go. Then he turns around and says, I'm going to harden his heart. Yahweh's making an example out of Pharaoh. But if you get to the point where you misunderstand the job instructions, now you think the job is all about you. I must succeed in getting this person to hear me. This person may never hear you. That wasn't what the instruction was for. The instruction was for judgment, righteous judgment to be placed upon Pharaoh. So he needed to hear these things. That doesn't mean he was going to adhere to any of them. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 11 and verse 2. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold.
I always ask people when they gonna borrow something, I ask them, is this Hebrew borrow or Egyptian borrow? What kind of borrowing we talking about here? Is this Pharaoh borrowing? Because there's no opportunity for them to ever give this stuff back. Okay? Because they leaving. So you got to find out what kind of borrowing. Every time somebody said, let me borrow, can I borrow your radio? Well, what kind of borrow are we talking about? Is this Egyptian borrowing? Because I do plan on sending my stuff back. Go ahead.
And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moshe was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. And Moshe said, Thus said Yahweh, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt.
Right. What kind of name do you have even amongst your enemies? And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moshe was very great in the land of Egypt. Do understand, he had been gone for a considerable amount of time. Why does he still have a good name in Egypt? What kind of name do the heathens have concerning you? When you show up, do they have anything good to say about you? Go ahead.
Verse 5. And all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts.
And people will say, well, Moshe killed a man in Egypt. Yeah, and Yahweh gonna kill many more of them Egyptians. Go ahead.
And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that you may know how that Yahweh does put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel.
Right. Yahweh puts a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And he's going to show that there is a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And all these your servants shall come down unto me, and bow down themselves unto me, saying, Get you out, and all the people that follow you. And after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in a great anger. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt.
You see that? There, he already lets him know the purpose of why Pharaoh is not going to listen. He's not going to hearken unto you. That is Yahweh's purpose, so that his work is going to be magnified. See, consider this. You have all these plagues that he's going to bring to Egypt, or that he had already said he was going to bring to Egypt. If Pharaoh listened the first time, he said, let my people go. All right, y'all gone. No, wait a minute, what are plagues at? Yahweh didn't get to show his power at all. Say, no. See, this is righteous judgment, and people don't see how it's righteous. Understand how long they have been captive in this place. When it comes down to that, Yahweh's not going to let the people just slide out of judgment at that point. Say, no. You're going to get this judgment. So each time you try to repent because you don't want to wait on you, I'm going to cause your heart to be hardened so that I can go ahead and show all my power. See, you done held the children of Israel this long. No, you don't get to get one plague. I'm going to get all of them. See, people don't see that's righteous judgment. See, my elder used to say, sometimes people judgment, they can't even see it. Because their judgment is that they get stuck in whatever it is and can't stop. They do it so long, Yahweh won't let them stop. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 11 and verse 10. And Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of his land. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Right.
So now Yahweh is giving the children of Israel an understanding of how they're supposed to do things in this newly formed life, yet they are still in captivity. He's giving them all of these things, and it's hard to talk to people about freedom while they still in jail. Go and talk to a brother in jail and start telling him how he should walk when he get out. Man, I don't want to talk about that until I get out of here, brother. I'm in here. No. If you don't get your mind right before you go, when you do go, you're going to be right back here. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 3. Speak you unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
So we know then, as it starts talking about this lamb, we know that it is talking about this Passover, and this month shall be the beginning of the months to you. So then we now know that the beginning of the year starts with this Passover. We now understand how Yahweh is directing the way the year goes. Because we know that different cultures have different times of year. What the Euro Gentiles have given us for a new year is January to worship their pagan god Janus. That's why they do the watch night service. That's why they do all of those things at midnight. So they can worship the two-headed God that looks into the past and in the future. That's not the beginning of Yahweh's year, according to this Bible. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
And we know that all of, when we get into our setup of the days, the new day begins in the evening, not at midnight. When what we call sundown, that divides one day from the other day. The day begins in the evening. Go ahead.
And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorposts of the houses, wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not it raw, nor sodden it all with water, but roast it with fire, his head with his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. And you shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt.
Right. So this blood of the Lamb protects the children of Israel. This is in a physical state. Yahweh is already setting the precedent for the spiritual blood of the Lamb to cover the children of Israel in the future. So Yahweh is already taking care of a event in the future by dealing with this blood of the Lamb. They don't understand all of that. But meanwhile, there are some things that you just move with, even though Yahweh hasn't given you full understanding of that particular thing. They don't really understand the blood of the Lamb yet. They just know they need to mark those posts with it and follow those instructions. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 14. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread.
Now, understand, he's giving them this thing of this Passover, eat it with your shoes on in haste. Understand, this is a hard Passover to keep because you're still wondering about whether or not this great judgment, how Pharaoh may act within this situation. What may end up, coming toward you while you're trying to do this thing, and you have our so-called rational mind. Why don't Yahweh just wait till we get out of here before he give us this? We can get killed in here. Mess around, he talking about the blood of the lamb roasted with the head and the legs. I want to keep my head and my legs. Let's just get out of here, and then we can worry about that. Right. Your rationale don't get to come into Yahweh's order. Go ahead.
Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel.
Now, when we deal with this leaven is put in food to make food rise. Okay? So that when those bread that they're eating, those flat cakes because they were not leavened. Okay? when you deal with these things, 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. You shall put away leaven out of your houses. So when the Passover come, we don't straighten up. I know a lot of y'all straighten up your house. No. When Passover come, we clean up. So for you to put out leaven out of your houses, there is a full cleanse that happens within your house. To clean up something, your house get dirtier when you really clean it. Because if you got to clean those cabinets, you got to pull out everything out of the cabinet, then clean the cabinet, find out what has leaven in it. All that don't go back in the cabinet. So straightening up ain't for Passover. You straighten up some other time. You gonna clean up when Passover comes. See, our folks used to do it all the time. They used to call it spring cleaning. Didn't nobody explain it to you though. That's real spring cleaning. That's the time when you seen these old folks go through the house with a fine-tooth comb, going to get all of this stuff, really cleaning the house, not straightening up. You can straighten up in 5 minutes. When somebody show up at the front door and you didn't know they were coming, you can straighten up in 5 minutes. And your house look presentable. But it ain't Passover clean. Go ahead.
You know, even with that, of the practice of spring cleaning, our folks used to do it not realizing that the basis was from these times when we were preparing for Passover. But as we journeyed through the slave trades and forgot the traditions of why it was being done, then you get this spring cleaning.
Of course.
Because it took place during spring.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation. And in the 7th day there shall be an holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you.
All right, so when we deal with this whole thing of the leaven being pulled out of your houses, what does the leaven represent? Sin. Leaven is a representation of sin. So you have this Passover, then you have unleavened bread coming right after that. Go ahead.
Verse 17. And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land.
All right, jump to verse 29.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 29. And it came to pass that at midnight Yahweh smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moshe and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up and get you forth from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve Yahweh as you have said.
Now first, he tried to play games with him. He wanted to send the men and lead the women and children and do all of these things. Now that he has suffered in this loss, now he's saying, look, get out, all of y'all, everything, get out. Go ahead.
Verse 32. Also take your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and be gone, and bless me also.
Now check that out. After people done you any old kind of way, but here's the thing. Everybody has to go through these things. There were mixed multitude among them as well. But when it come down to it, when people make it through this horrific event, it shows that Elohim is with you. there are certain things that you're going to have to encounter. While you're trying to get out of it, it's the part of you making it through it that proves to the people around that Yahweh is with you. Because all of these people are going to go through it, but it's not going to hurt you like it hurt them. And they're going to look at you more and more strange. Why didn't you lose everything when such and such happened? Everybody else I know lost everything when that happened. Something else going to happen. Why didn't you have how you lived through such and such? Because everybody else I know went through that. They dead. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 33. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. For they said, we be all dead men.
Right. What you think going to happen here? Yahweh do the same things over and over. You're not going to come to some grandiose conclusion that you think you need to leave this country and you're going to go get you a passport and we all going to get on a cruise ship. And no. Yahweh going to start doing something to these people. And they're going to say, get these Negroes up out the land. We be all dead men. Get them all out of here. Go ahead.
And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moshe, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment.
There go your reparations. See, we want to get something while we still in the land of Egypt. Getting Jews in the land of Egypt, in the same land of your captivity, does not help you or your people. Because you spend the reparation money in the land of captivity, thus enriching the people who held you captive. Reparations wouldn't help us today. We would spend all the money right here. Doing what? Building up the very economy of the people who held us as slaves. Don't you realize when money is spent, the economy gets a boost? They done closed all them motor plants up in Chicago and Detroit or wherever that thing is. They're going to open them all back up and they give us reparations because we're going to be a Cadillac for everybody. We want gold rims and everything. If they got spaceship, we want a gold spaceship too. So, before you know it, all our money gone and the economy has been boosted. The very economy who did all of these things to you, you have given all the money right back to them. So that whole thing of trying to get reparations, it doesn't make sense. They're doing this on their way out. They're getting the payment for the problems that they went to. Why? That money or those jewels, all of those things can then be used in the place where they're going to get sent to. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 36. And Yahweh gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Sukkah, about 600,000 on foot, that were men beside children. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle.
You understand, the Egyptians didn't just take the children of Israel captive. They would take whoever they wanted to take captive. And you look at this mixed multitude of people, these people see the power of Yahweh, but their heart is not really in serving Yahweh, but they're still amazed that somebody was able to do something to these Egyptians who were supposed to be like man gods. Go ahead.
And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry, neither had they prepared for themselves any victual. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel, who dwelt in Egypt, was 430 years.
Right. The sojourning of the children of Israel in Egypt was 430 years. Now hold your place right there and let's go to Genesis 15. Genesis chapter 15 and start at verse 13.
And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them.
So the children of Israel are going to be servants. Go ahead.
And they shall afflict them 400 years.
They shall afflict them 400 years. The time in Egypt was said to be 430 years. This is not the same time frame. So this automatically lets you know that there is another captivity outside of the Egyptian captivity. Why is that important? It lets you know that them imposters who in the land are not the children of Israel. Because what they like to do is talk about the Egyptian captivity and act as if they went through it. Here's the problem. In the Torah, in the curses of Deuteronomy 28, he's already giving us the punishment for Israel not doing what we're supposed to do. And in those punishments, he promises another captivity. The same thing that is in Genesis here that was given unto Abram. So you have a captivity prophesied, then you have in the Torah a captivity. The issue is the people who are in the land, they cannot produce because it's already supposed to be another one. So if that's the only one you claiming, which we know that that's a lie, that you can't claim that one as your captivity. So this is how these things help us. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance.
See? There go your reparations. Your reparations is given and already stated in the beginning of the book. They shall come out with great substance. Not you gonna be in there buying Cadillacs with reparation money. And this is in the beginning of the book. All right, now let's go back.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 41. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day it came to pass, that all the hosts of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt.
Now, 430 years to the self-same day. Why would he be exactly, pinpoint accurate with the same day, but then be 30 years off? But people don't want you to know this, because this lets you know that that captivity that they're claiming, we already know it wasn't them, but that could not have been the last one. When Yahweh gave the curses to the children of Israel, Yahweh's way of punishment was captivity. Yahweh ain't said nothing about no gas chamber and no Yahweh ain't said nothing about that. Now, how you gonna be the children of Israel and none of your events that you're going to encounter says anything about what you've encountered? How is it Yahweh can have this whole book and not one thing about the gas chamber? Not one. And people want to tell you the most horrific thing was the Holocaust. It was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible. Well, why isn't it not in the Torah? But I can find slavery in there. I can find where men was going to be made to wear a yoke of iron and plow the ground like an animal. I can go in there and find where families were going to be split up, where wives would be taken from husbands and children taken from parents. Everything that happened to us in slavery, I can find it in Deuteronomy 28. Now, why can't I find the Holocaust in the Torah? Now you understand why they don't read from the Torah. Now they got to have that Talmud. that Mishnah, all that other stuff. They need all of that because they cannot deal with the Torah and prove their existence. You need to know that, though. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 42. It is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed of all the children of Israel and their generations. And Yahweh said unto Moshe and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when you have circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. A foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. You shall not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof.
Right. So you find that when Yahshua became our Passover, they were going to make sure that those men were dead and they would break their legs. And he gave up the ghost so that they would not break a bone, so that he would not be a blemished sacrifice. Go ahead.
Verse 47. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with you, and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
Now, it is amazing to me, even in this Old Testament, and Yahweh was completely about the children of Israel. He automatically has this thing that if the stranger becomes circumcised, then they can partake of these holy things. Yet, you got them purple kung fu brothers that be on the side of the street yelling at people, talking about only Israel is going to be able to make it into the kingdom. In the old way, Yahweh already made a way for the stranger to come and be a part of Israel if they so desire. So the old law don't even agree with what them kung fu brothers is talking about, much less what Yahshua brought to the table. That stuff don't fit. But they appeal to the brothers who are angry about their lives, and they want to blame white people for everything that happened to them. It's white people's fault they didn't go to college. It's white people's fault they didn't get that promotion. It's white people's fault they don't have that big old car with them rims on it. Everything is white people's fault. And they get to appeal to those type of brothers. And those are the kind of brothers they get. Those are the kind of brothers they want. Well, I guess those kind of brothers got to go somewhere because they can't come here. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 12 and verse 49. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. Thus did all the children of Israel, as Yahweh commanded Moshe and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that Yahweh did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies.
All right. Let's go to Numbers chapter 28. See, people don't see the power of that, that hatred having to go somewhere. We looked at one of those documentaries when it was talking about the Black Panthers and all of the good things that they had set up, but the aggression that was in, the Black Panther Party upon dealing with those brothers and trying to basically murder them all off, what that left and what that turned into was the Bloods and the Crips. And people will often tell you about the Bloods and the Crips, but they don't tell you how that got to be. That came from them going and murdering off all those Black Panther brothers. What was left turned into Bloods and Crips to this day. Those were revolutionaries. But that anger and aggression took hold and went somewhere else. Now ask those brothers now, if they got any meal programs for the kids. Ain't no blood meal program for the kids. Ain't no crip meal program for the kids. What, you gonna shoot the kids and feed them at the same time? You gonna sell them dope and feed? No, man, that's that. What? But that's what happened in the vacuum that was left. Go ahead.
Numbers chapter 28 and verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Command the children of Israel, and say unto them, My offering and my bread for my sacrifices made by fire, for a sweet savor unto me, shall you observe to offer unto me in their due season. And you shall say unto them, This is the offering made by fire which you shall offer unto Yahweh, 2 lambs of the first year without spot day by day, for a continual burnt offering.
Right. So we already have these things that Yahweh has set forth, but then he has set forth a daily sacrifice to be accepted from the children of Israel in the morning and the evening, so that Israel's focus is on Yahweh. What happens with us today, we spend so much time having to work and dealing with all of those things, Yahweh is the furthest thing from our mind. People get home and they say, I'm too tired. I don't want to hear nothing about Yahweh. The children of Israel began their day about Yahweh and ended their day about Yahweh. But see, the powers that be know, if we work them hard enough, they won't be thinking about no Yahweh. That was Pharaoh's objective. He said, man, these people here, you know, they don't multiply. Let us afflict them with hard bondage. Work these people harder. Go ahead.
Verse 4. The 1 lamb shall you offer in the morning, and the other lamb shall you offer at evening. And a 10th part of an ephah of flour for a meat offering, mingled with the 4th part of an hin of beaten oil. It is a continual burnt offering, which was ordained in Mount Sinai for a sweet savor, a sacrifice made by fire unto Yahweh.
All right, a 10th part of an ephah of flour for a meat offering mingled with the 4th part of an hin of beaten oil. All right, so as you keep reading, all you're going to read after that is like a 10th part. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And the drink offering thereof shall be the 4th part of an hin for the 1 lamb. In the holy place shall you cause a strong wine to be poured onto Yahweh for a drink offering.
Right, but you got those holier than thou people. They say, I can't drink no wine. I can't drink no alcoholic beverage because I must be holy. Let me tell you something. We was looking at a documentary not too long ago, and it was talking about the rise in all the cancers and all of those things, and they talked about the consumption of meat and how all of the eating of meat was causing this cancer. You notice every time they're dealing with eating this meat, you find the wine. Then you do the research on wine and find out this is what's cleansing your body. So as Yahweh turn around and tell you to eat the meat, then he turn around and tell you to drink the wine. What we want to do is do half of it. So we just eat meat. Oh man, I'm sick. This meat killing me. Yeah, every time he said eat meat, he also said drink wine. See, when you go to Gentiles' houses, they have wine cellars full of wine. What we got is a refrigerator full of malt liquor. That stuff ain't gonna do nothing but kill you. That stuff ain't gonna do nothing but kill you. You ain't gonna find nowhere in here have a burnt offering and some malt liquor. That ain't in here. That stuff killing you. They don't even sell that stuff on the white part of town. Go on the white folk part of town and look for malt liquor. They don't have that in there. That stuff is for you. So you can get drunk as a skunk, fight your woman and fight your brother and wreck your car, do all that kind of mess. Every time you read one of these things about this meat, keep reading and watch how you read the thing about the wine. Yahweh is telling you to eat and then turn around and cleanse you. In the New Testament, it says, drink no longer water, but drink wine for thy stomach's sake. for your often infirmities. So it's known that this stuff is cleansing you. Go ahead.
Numbers chapter 28 and verse 8. And the other lamb shall you offer at even, as the meat offering of the morning, and as the drink offering thereof you shall offer it, a sacrifice made by fire, of a sweet savor unto Yahweh. And on the Shabbat day 2 lambs of the first year without spot, and 2/10 deals of flour for a meat offering, mingled with oil, and the drink offering thereof. This is the burnt offering of every Shabbat, beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering.
All right. And you see that there was a every day to 1/10 deal, and then on the Sabbath this jumps to a 2/10 deal. Yahweh is showing what things are important unto him. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 23.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, Concerning the feast of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts.
Right, and this word here for feasts, plural, is moed, which is Strong's H4150. This is a fixed time or season. And for things to be happen in the season, a lot of people will tell you that once you start dealing with this Hebrew culture, we know that what the Euro-Gentiles have, the regular calendar, is a solar calendar. People will tell you that when you enter into this word that we have a lunar calendar, which in fact, when you dig deep enough, you find out that we have a lunar and a solar calendar, which means it goes by the sun and the moon. If you go just by the moon, these holy days are not going to stay in their seasons. You have to use both. You get in Genesis, in the beginning, it says, and he made 2 great lights, and let them be for signs, and let them be for seasons, let them be for your days, your years, your months. So this was how we're supposed to count our time, but you have to use both of those, not one. If you only use the moon, then your holy days are going to start to move. There are congregations now that have their holy days a complete month different than what we have now, because they're not taking into account the sun and the vernal equinox. But what'll happen is, what's going to happen, hopefully they'll catch that by the next year if they don't catch it this year, because what's going to happen is they're going to just count 12 months, and it's going to push the Passover back another month. It's going to keep going. For what they have in Islam is they have that Ramadan. Ramadan goes through every season of the year because it's just lunar. Because it's only by the months, it's going to continually move. See, there's not a direct divided thing as far as dividing time when dealing with the months. So if you just go lunar, this Passover has to happen in the season where this growth is starting. If you keep going by the moon, you're going to move. It's going to be, happen early March, then late February, then it's going to be in January, then it's going to start moving all throughout the year, and you're not going to have the things as you're reading these things about what's supposed to happen. Those things are not going to be able to happen when you're talking about the green ear. That can't happen in winter. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 3. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Shabbat of rest, an holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is the Shabbat of Yahweh in all your dwellings. These are the feast of Yahweh, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons.
In their seasons. Okay? Go ahead.
In the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Passover.
In the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Passover. The word here, Passover, is Pesach. Strong's H6453. That is exemption. So when you talk about this being passed over, this is what a lot of people like to equate with forgiveness. And I keep telling people that forgiveness is not the end of the equation. Forgiveness is the beginning of the equation. For your sin has already been passed over. How many of us have already sinned? And our sin was forgiven because we didn't get judged for that sin. There are certain sins, the judgment is death. You didn't die. But there's still a part missing. There's an atonement that must be made for that sin. So just because you were forgiven and that sin was passed over, that's not the end of the equation. See, some people get ready to do their touchdown dance too early. You dancing, you ain't got to the end zone. You might want to hold the ball, keep running. It ain't time to dance yet. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. In the first day you shall have an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. In the 7th day is an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
All right. So you have this month of Abib, which is what they call April. It is in between March and April. Then you have that, of course, goes by the determination of the new moon. Then we have on the 14th day of the first month at even is Yahweh's Passover. Then the next day begins unleavened bread. So you got Passover. The next day is unleavened bread. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
Right. Now, when you deal with this word of feast in singular, it is Kog. That is Strong's H2282. Now, who knows the Hebrew word for unleavened bread? Y'all use it all the time. That's why it's a trick question. Matzah. That stuff to be sitting on top of your refrigerator every time you do Passover. They name the stuff after what it really is. That's their little brand. So, go ahead, bro. Look, he's right. Look at it.
Verse 11.
You got to wait to get your answers, bro.
And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it.
All right. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. So you have Passover. The first day of unleavened bread is a Sabbath. The morrow after that Sabbath is first fruits. So you have to look at the way Yahweh has set this up. Yahweh has set this up in an order that makes perfect sense. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And you shall offer that day when you wave the sheaf of a lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto Yahweh. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil.
Right. So now we go back on the Sabbath. On all the other ones, you see the 1/10 deal. On the Sabbath, it was 2. And now you have on this day of this first fruits, there's a 2/10 deal. Go ahead.
An offering made by fire unto Yahweh for a sweet savor, and the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the fourth part of an hin.
Now look at that. He turn around and tell you to eat meat, and then turn around and tell you to drink wine. Boy, I tell you, yep. And you're going to keep reading the same thing over and over. But you got them holier than thou people, them the same people that said, well, I'm so holy, I'm not going to partake of no alcoholic beverage. Then they go to the pharmacist and get something to make the whole left side of their body tingle. You getting the dope of dopes from the pharmacist, but talk about how holy you are that you're not going to drink no wine. Maybe if you drank the wine, you wouldn't be taking that pharmacy dope. See, we think that dope is better than the dope that Pookie sell in the car. It's same dope. It's same people sell the dope. The same people that got Pookie on the corner is the same people that got CVS on the corner. You just don't see Mr. Bob Dabalina. He's supplying dope to both of them. He drop off Pookie dope, then he go down the street and drop off the dope to CVS. He's same one. He's same dealer. You just see a different pusher, so you think it's better when you go to CVS and you get your dope with a label on it. I got a label on my dope. It got my name on it. James Johnson's dope. Right. I tell you what, hold your place right there. And let's go to Exodus chapter 22. Exodus chapter 22, and let's read verses 29 through 30.
Verse 29. You shall not delay to offer the first of your ripe fruits and of your liquors.
What, man? Come on now. What? Liquor? What kind of God is that? Right, this is the real one. That one that they taught you about on Sunday morning, that was the fake one. See, the real God real. See, that fake God tell you that, oh, don't do this. It's not holy. Right. He getting you killed. Because now that cancer keep growing in your body, and you are never having an opportunity to cleanse it. But you feel holy. But you hurt like all get out. Right. Go ahead.
The firstborn of your sons shall you give unto me. Likewise shall you do with your oxen and with your sheep. 7 days it shall be with his dam.
That's the mother.
On the 8th day you shall give it me.
The same time period that circumcision was to be done. All right. So you see the first of all of those things belong unto Yahweh. So understand that. Now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 26. And we're going to start that at verse 1.
Verse 1. And it shall be, when you are come unto the land which Yahweh your Elohim giveth you for an inheritance, and possess it, and dwelleth therein, that you shall take of the first of all the fruit of the earth, which you shall bring of your land that Yahweh your Elohim giveth you, and shall put it in a basket, and shall go on to the place which Yahweh your Elohim shall choose to place his name there.
So the heathen then turn this into Easter basket. You supposed to turn give your fruit and bring it in a basket to make an offering unto Yahweh. The heathen said, "Look, well, we're gonna make this Easter egg basket. You put your eggs in there." See? So you're gonna worship the fertility god Astaroth, which is what those eggs are about. That is a ritual of fertility. What is in whenever you deal with fertility, there's an egg that is fertilized. This is why all the Easter suits used to be white, because you was that other thing of fertility. The thing that fertilized the egg. That was what you was dressed up to be. walking around with your basket and your nice dress or suit on. Which, by the way, this is a good time to buy your kids dresses because they putting all the dresses out, getting ready to, worship their pagan goddess Astaroth, the goddess of fertility. All the stuff move according to their holidays, if you hadn't noticed. They don't do nothing that doesn't allow them the opportunity to make money. This is all about money. Every bit of it is about money and them worshiping their pagan gods. Go ahead.
It's the only time of year you're going to find dresses in abundance.
Right. It's dresses in every store you go in now. Because they getting ready to worship their pagan god. So they got it everywhere. Wait too long. You ain't going to be able to find no dress nowhere. You have to duct tape some pants on your kids. You just cut them in the middle and just put tape down the middle. Your kid have on duct tape? What is this? Can't find no dresses. Right. They don't find their white dresses. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy chapter 26 and verse 3. And you shall go unto the priest that shall be in those days, and say unto him, I profess this day unto Yahweh your Elohim, that I am come unto the country which Yahweh sware unto our fathers for to give us. And the priest shall take the basket out of your hand, and set it down before the altar of Yahweh your Elohim. And you shall speak and say before Yahweh your Elohim, A Syrian ready to perish was my father, and he went down into Egypt, and sojourned there with a few, and became there a nation, great, mighty, and populous. And the Egyptians evil entreated us, and afflicted us, and laid upon us a hard bondage.
Right. And the whole key to that was after a while, after the children of Israel had multiplied, they then afflicted them with hard bondage. They were not being afflicted the entire time they were in Egypt. So this lets you know that the prophecy that was given unto Abram in Genesis 15 and verse 13 did not fit the Egyptian captivity, letting you know that there would have to be another one. This proves the children of Israel and disproves the imposters that Great Britain and America have put in there as being the children of Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And when we cried unto Yahweh, Elohim of our fathers, Yahweh heard our voice and looked on our affliction, and our labor, and our oppression. And Yahweh brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand, and with an outstretched arm, and with great terribleness, and with signs, and with wonders. And he has brought us into this place, and hath given us this land, even a land that floweth with milk and honey. And now, behold, I have brought the first fruits of the land, which you, O Yahweh, have given me. And you shall set it before Yahweh your Elohim, and worship before Yahweh your Elohim. And you shall rejoice in every good thing which Yahweh your Elohim have given unto you, and unto your house, you, and the Levite, and the stranger that is among you. When you have made an end of tithing all the tithes of your increase the third year, which is the year of tithing, and have given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within your gates and be filled.
So the children of Israel were storing up these things, preparing to give their tithe, setting these things. If they had something in their house, and we'll get to that, they are stacking these things up for that purpose. It is set apart from all their other stuff. This helps us to be disciplined in the things that we're supposed to be doing. And we see that they're preparing to make their offering unto Yahweh. Not just grab, something out the change drawer on the way out the door. Oh, look at this. Here's a stick of bubble gum I found in my pocket. Let me take that to Yahweh. What the hell want that? You're supposed to be preparing what you're giving to Yahweh. Not grab the stuff you got on the way out the door. Go ahead.
Then you shall say before Yahweh your Elohim, I have brought away the hallowed things out of mine house.
The hallowed things out of my house. So I had separated those things, and they were holy unto you. Go ahead.
And also have given them unto the Levite, and unto the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow, according to all your commandments which you have commanded me.
Right. So now it is just not about bringing all of those things so that the preacher can get a $65 million jet. It's taking care of the people of Israel. Go ahead.
I have not transgressed your commandments, neither have I forgotten them. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning.
So I ain't go into stuff. I set it apart. It was set hallowed. Even though it was in my house, it was hallowed. Couldn't nobody touch that stuff. That was my stuff that I got set aside for Yahweh. Don't touch that. Go ahead.
Neither have I taken away aught thereof for any unclean use.
For any unclean use. Well, we're going to have a party next week. I tell you what, get some of that bread I got stacked over there for Yahweh, and I tell you what, we go ahead and make us a pizza and watch the game. What? Go ahead.
Nor given aught thereof for the dead. But I have hearkened to the voice of Yahweh my Elohim, and have done according to all that you have commanded me.
Y'all having a wake? Won't y'all can take some of my stuff I got stacked over here for Yahweh and go ahead and have a wake for the dead. Go ahead.
Verse 15. Look down from your holy habitation, from heaven, and bless your people Israel, and the land which you have given us, as you sweareth unto our fathers, a land that floweth with milk and honey. This day Yahweh Elohim have commanded you to do these statutes and judgments. You shall therefore keep and do them with all your heart and with all your soul.
With all your heart and all your soul. This is where your energy should be directed towards. If it says Yahweh is a spirit and he seeketh such to worship him in truth and in spirit. Go ahead.
You have avouched Yahweh this day to be your Elohim, and to walk in his ways, and to keep his statutes, and his commandments, and his judgments, and to hearken unto his voice. And Yahweh hath avouched you this day to be his peculiar people, as he hath promised you, and that you should keep all his commandments, and to make you high above all nations which he hath made, in praise, and in name, and in honor, and that you may be an holy people unto Yahweh your Elohim, as he has spoken.
Right. Doing these things, you have been made into a holy people. So we see in dealing with these first fruits that this is something that's commanded by Yahweh in dealing with this law. This is the natural part of that. Now let's deal with the spiritual part of this first fruit. So let's go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. So we had Passover and the 14th day at even. And we know that the day starts at even. So that would be on the 13th day at what we call sundown begins the 14th. So Passover, the next day is unleavened bread. The day after that within, because unleavened bread is a week. So the first day of unleavened bread is a Sabbath. The day after that is the day of first fruits. This is what we were talking about this wave offering. Now, let's deal with this. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 20 through 23.
But now is the Messiah risen from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that slept.
Now, Christ has become the first fruits of them that slept. Go ahead.
For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so the Messiah shall all be made alive. But every man in his own order, the Messiah the first fruits, afterward they that are Messiahs at his coming.
Right. So then the Mashiach rose on first fruits, being first fruits. See, this deals goes against this Christian concept of, well, we worship on Sunday because he rose on Sunday. It was already a holy day for the day he rose. It was already set in the Old Testament. Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of First Fruits. He was raised being first fruits on first fruit. You can't get no better than that. So then they come with that little slick lie. Say, that's why we worship on Sunday. Say we worship on Sunday because the Lord rose on Sunday. Say, that's why we do. You can take that lie and shove it, Pastor Gooddollar. That is a lie. And it don't fit nothing in this book. And as we get even further, we're going to find some more parts of that lie that they give us. I want to go and read one other thing concerning this first fruit in Genesis chapter 4. Now, there's certain things you ain't going to hear in Christianity. But this is probably one. You'll probably hear this one, though. Because can't nobody teach nothing about offering better than Christian. Christians can do some good classes on offering. You have to consider something. Christian offering sermon can go all over the Bible. I want you to notice something. Notice the hypocrisy. Whenever they talk about offering, they can read Old Testament and New Testament. But whenever they're dealing with sin, they only deal with the New Testament. Y'all ain't catch that. Yeah, when you catch it, call me. Genesis chapter 4. See, you don't see the hypocrisy in that. When they dealing with offering, they'll go all in Leviticus. They'll go in Genesis. If you want to learn about offering, I'm trying to tell you, go and look at your televangelist. They can give you some good classes on offering. But when they start talking about sin, notice, they're not going to talk about but 2 of these books. Right. Genesis chapter 4 and verses 1 through 5.
And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I've gotten a man from Yahweh. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahweh. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof, and Yahweh had respect unto Abel and to his offering.
All right. What is missing out of the description of Cain's offering? What does it not say about Cain's offering? First. It does not say anything about it was the first of his thing. Now, when you read it here, we were bringing the fruit. We just read they had the basket full of the first fruits. It said Cain just brought some fruit. It did not mention whether or not it was the first of his fruit. Now, his brother brought the firstling of his flock. That's the first of his stuff. So it's a little bit different. Now, there were several things he could have done. He could have, maybe if that wasn't the first of what he had, he could have maybe got him something. Maybe it was the atonement blood that was missing. Maybe he could have offered up an animal unto Yahweh. But the bottom line is, what he offered, it doesn't mention that it was any part of the beginning of his stuff. It was just, he brought of the fruit of the ground. Go ahead.
Verse 5. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell.
So this offering was disrespected when we look at those things. So now let's go back to where we held our place there in Leviticus. Leviticus chapter 23. And I tell you what, let's start at verse 13 again.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 13. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto Yahweh for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the 4th part of an hin. And you shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green ears, until the selfsame day that you have brought an offering unto your Elohim. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
Right. If you do not make this offering, all of these things you cannot eat. Go ahead.
And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Shabbats shall be complete. Even unto the morrow after the 7 Shabbat shall you number 50 days.
All right. So what we then see this is, it says, and you shall count unto you from tomorrow after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf. So you got Passover, unleavened bread the first day. Then you have, the first day is the Sabbath, but then you have Feast of First Fruits. So that's within your Feast of Unleavened Bread. Then you have your weekly Sabbath at the within that. After that weekly Sabbath, because it's the Sabbath after you make your wave offering, then you count your 7 Sabbaths. So it's this 7 Sabbaths, and shall and then it says even the morrow after the 7th Sabbath is your 50th day. This is how it came to be known as Pentecost. Penta is a Greek word meaning 50. 7 times 7 is 49. The next day is the 50th day. Now, there are certain things that happen on this day. Now, of course, we're reading this in this law, but we can find these things in the New Testament as well, and we're going to read some of them so that you can get an understanding of a few of those things as well. Go ahead.
And you shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahweh. Verse 17. You shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2 tenth deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto Yahweh.
They are the first fruits unto Yahweh. So you have the beginning when you're getting ready to gather in your stuff. So you have your first fruits of your gathering in, and then you have your first fruits of these things that you are able to make with all of those things after you've gathered these things in. So Yahweh has this whole process of our planting season. All of these things are contained in his holy days. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And you shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and 1 young bullock, and 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering unto Yahweh, with their meat offering and their drink offerings, even an offering made by fire of sweet savor unto Yahweh. Then you shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before Yahweh, with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy to Yahweh for the priest. And you shall proclaim on the selfsame day that it may be an holy convocation unto you. You shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. And when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not make clean riddance of the corners of your field when you reap it, neither shall you gather any gleaning of your harvest. You shall leave them unto the poor, and go to the stranger. I am Yahweh your Elohim. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall you have a Shabbat, a memorial of blowing of trumpets.
In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, you shall have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets. So, understanding if that's the first day of the month, then that's the new moon. So the new moon is going to begin this month, and it's going to have this holy day. Go ahead.
An holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein.
What is servile work? Work that you are paid for. Go ahead.
But you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Also on the 10th day of this 7th month there shall be a day of atonement.
Right. See, this you have to consider. Yahweh begins with Pesach, Passover, and then when you get to this 7th month, you then find the ending of things. See, people think it starts with forgiveness. They think the beginning and the end is forgiveness. It began with forgiveness. It ends with atonement. And that doesn't happen until the 7th month, until the end of those things. Go ahead. Got a problem there? Go ahead, bro.
It shall be an holy convocation unto
Man,
you,
can't nobody read y'all lips,
and
brother.
you shall afflict your souls, and
y'all
offer an
horrible at
offering.
playing charades, man. Whatever that is, y'all doing, man. The cow jumped over the moon and the monkey said, ouch. Look here, brother. Write that stuff down, man, or something. Do something. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Also on the 10th day of this 7th month there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation unto you, and you shall afflict your souls, and offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
And you shall do no work in that same day.
And that's why I asked you the question of what it was servile work. Because on the day of atonement, it says you shall do no work. Because you are to afflict your souls from even to even. So in afflicting yourself, we are not eating on that day. We are having a fast, and you don't get to work the time away. See, that's what Israel won't be slick. Israel ain't raked the yard all year. Jake want to go, oh, I just want to rake the yard. No, you trying to make the time go away because you hungry. See? No. Go ahead.
For it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before Yahweh your Elohim.
Right. To make an atonement for you, for Yahweh your Elohim. Go ahead.
For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it be that does any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. You shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Shabbat of rest, and you shall afflict your souls. In the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even, shall you celebrate your Shabbat.
What's the Hebrew word for atonement? Kippur. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, The 15th day of this 7th month shall be the feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto Yahweh. On the 1st day shall be an holy convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh.
Right. So the ending of his holy feast, then you have this great atonement where Israel is set right in the place with Yahweh their Elohim. And then you have this Feast of Tabernacles, where it is an 8-day feast. You then have this is symbolic of this final kingdom, where first the sin has to be made atoned for. Then you have the opportunity to live in this glorious sin-free kingdom. But it's not just about forgiveness. The atonement has to happen before you can tabernacle. See, that's the part that people miss. Because see, on Sunday morning, all they tell you is forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. No, they're missing the best part. The best part is the atonement. You don't get to tabernacle without having your sins atoned for. Go ahead.
It is a solemn assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein. These are the feasts of Yahweh, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything upon his day. Besides the Shabbats of Yahweh, and besides your gifts, and beside all your vows, and beside all your freewill offerings, which you give unto Yahweh, also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep a feast unto Yahweh 7 days. On the 1st day shall be a Shabbat, and on the 8th day shall be a Shabbat. And you shall take you on the 1st day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim 7 days. And you shall keep it a feast unto Yahweh 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate in the 7th month. You shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths, when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your Elohim. And Moshe declared unto the children of Israel the feast of Yahweh.
All right, and this Feast of Tabernacles is also known by another name. What is that name? We're going to get there. Let's go to, where we going here? Acts chapter 2. See, there's a couple of them that's got two names. So you need to know, because it'll throw you off. Because some people will use one name and other people will use the other name. So you'll be thinking, trying to figure out, which feast they talking about. There's two of the feasts that have two names. Yep. Acts chapter 2, and let's read verses 1 through 15. Now, we read about this day of Pentecost, which is 7 Sabbaths from the Sabbath that you offer the wave offering. So from the Sabbath after first fruits, you count 7 Sabbaths, and then the next day is Pentecost. Pentecost, or what they call Pentecost, is always on a Sunday or a first day. Acts chapter 2, and let's start this at verse 1.
And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind.
All right, why were they going all in one place on this day of Pentecost? What was the purpose? Nope. What was the purpose? Well, I want y'all to wait, but I guess I ain't heard no other answer, so yeah, y'all can go ahead now. All males make an appearance. Go ahead.
And it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of a fire, and it sat upon each of them.
Now, cloven tongues as a fire, and it sat upon each of them. Now, let's see what these cloven tongues are for. Go ahead.
And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, and began to speak with other tongues, as the Spirit gave them utterance.
Other tongues. Another tongue is a language. So, understand, it said these were all of these people coming to, because as we read, there's an appearance that they have to make. There are set appearances within these holy days. So these scattered people are then coming back to make their appearance. So other tongues are other languages. Not that goo gobbledygoo that they tell you about on Sunday morning. They tell you that they're speaking in tongues. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Yehudis, devout men, out of every nation under heaven.
And out of every nation under heaven. Because of the persecution, they are scattered, and they have to go and live in other places. And they have learned other languages. This also deals with those people who tell you, unless you learn Hebrew, you're not going to be able to really serve Yahweh. See, You got to learn Hebrew. Yet Yahweh say, with stammering lips and another tongue shall I speak to this people. How Yahweh gonna scatter you across the four corners of the globe and then tell you you got to speak the original language of where he kicked you out of? Go ahead.
Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language.
Every man heard them speak in his own language. Now you see the purpose of speaking in tongues. Not somebody getting up there yelling some goo gobbledygoo. What you say, Pastor? What you say, Pastor? Somebody need to interpret that. And then people in the audience, amen. I ain't saying amen to that. I don't know what he said. I'm supposed to agree to that. He could have just cursed me in Swahili. I don't know what he said. If somebody foreign come up to you and they just start talking, I don't know what you. I know what you normally see the Mexicans do. They just smile. They just smile and nod. They don't understand nothing you're saying. But that's just one of those things out of courtesy. They're not really agreeing with anything you say. They're just trying to get you to get up in front of them. They don't understand nothing you're saying. How can anybody agree when they don't understand what's going on? Go ahead.
Acts chapter 2 and verse 7. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our tongue when we were born?
Right. In our tongue and wherein we were born. So although they speak these different languages, they have been spread out, these cloven tongues give them the opportunity for everybody to understand one another. That's not what we hear told to us on Sunday morning. They tell us speaking in tongues is a gift of the Spirit. Yet you got churches that say they have classes on how to speak in tongues. Now, if it's a gift of the Spirit, how can you teach it? Let me tell you the next part of the hypocrisy. Understand when this is kept, when this gift was given. This gift is given at Pentecost. Let me show you the hypocrisy of the Sunday morning teaching. How you get to Pentecost, you first have to understand something. This is after the birth, death, and resurrection of Christ. And they're still keeping the holy day of Pentecost, or Feast of Weeks. Now, how do you count this Pentecost? 7 Sabbaths after Passover. So count the other hypocrisies. First, you didn't know what the Sabbath is because you had to count 7 of them plus 1 day to get to Pentecost. That's hypocrisy number 2. So you do not keep the Passover. That's your next hypocrisy. So you don't keep the Passover. You don't keep the Sabbath. You understand what all of those things are, yet you want the gift that was given on the holy day. So they don't keep Passover. They don't keep the day of Pentecost. They don't keep any other Sabbaths that were used to get to Pentecost, but they want the gift that's given out on Pentecost. Now you can't get no more hypocritical than that. That's like the cat that just show up on payday. And he's honestly angry. What you mean ain't got no check in there? Brother, we ain't seen you all week. Where you been? Everybody else got a check. Why ain't I get all these people been working all week? They kept all the things that they were supposed to do. Then they're going to turn the gift of speaking in tongues into something else. That's 4 hypocrisies within the same concept. Not only are you not going to do all of the things that even lead up to it, then when you do it, you're going to take it out of context. And people love to have it so. 5,000, 10,000 people pack an auditorium to hear some goo gobbledygoo. If we were speaking goo gobbledygook, we wouldn't have enough seats in here. Man, I'm going to hear Sock go speak that goo gobbledygook, bro. Brother speaking tongues. Right. Because people love that. People love that goo gobbledygook. None of it fits what's written in this book. And everybody has a book. So how is it that we are bewitched? That's because people want to be bewitched. Go ahead.
Acts chapter 2 and verse 9. Parthians and Medes and Elamites and the dwellers in Mesopotamia and in Judea and Cappadocia, in Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, in Egypt and in parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Yehudis and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians, we do hear them speak in our tongues the wondrous works of Elohim.
Right. So when somebody was speaking that goo gobbledygook, could you understand it? Because they said, we do hear them in our own tongues as they are talking about these wonderful works. So when that person was sitting up there talking about hamdallah, brother need a hunda, or whatever he's saying, did you understand it? You didn't understand not one bit of it. They told you they were speaking to Elohim. How is it you didn't understand it? That don't fit what's in this book. And then we get even further in this book. It says, if one speak in an unknown tongue, let there be an interpreter. When somebody's speaking in Spanish, you have a Spanish interpreter. See, that stuff doesn't fit this book. And you find this now in the New Testament. We've read all of these things talking about the holy days. We read that in the Old Testament. Now we're reading these holy days still being kept. Here is the whole part of the hypocrisy. You can't keep Pentecost by itself. This is your verification for why you are keeping these days. You can't just out of nowhere keep Pentecost. You got to start with Passover, unleavened bread, first fruit, then count 7 Sabbaths, and then the next day is Pentecost. You don't just jump up and keep Pentecost. So as somebody try to read you Acts chapter 2 and try to, just go by it a little bit. Oh, that was just one thing that they kept. You can't keep the one thing without keeping all the stuff in front of it. Go ahead, bro.
And they agree that there needs to be an interpreter.
Right.
But I don't think they've ever found anybody that can interpret it.
No, you know what? I know a lot of people that went to school for language, but I don't think they teach goo gobbledygook. You right on that, bro. I have never seen that on anybody's resume. Yeah, you speak some languages, don't you? You speak goo gobbledygook? Nah, she don't know that one. She don't know that. Now, you already know a few languages, but she don't know that goo gobbledygook. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And they were all amazed and were in doubt, saying one to another, what meaneth this? Others mocking said, these men are full of new wine.
Now, let them people tell you, they said, well, see, new wine is grape juice. Every time we read new wine, somebody got drunk. Now, I don't care how much Welch's you drink. You ain't never gonna get no buzz. I can guarantee you that. Wine is wine. Now, they've turned wine into something else because they want to be holier than thou. They now have a communion, which is supposed to be unleavened bread, like what we read in the book. But that bread is not unleavened. Then, instead of wine, they have grape juice. They have turned the entire thing upside down. Go ahead.
But Cephas, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, you men of Judea, and all you that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words. For these are not drunken as you suppose, seeing it is but the 3rd hour of the day.
So he has to defend that these people are not drunk because of all of this various talking that these people are doing, and it sounds like a bunch of gibberish. But he's saying, no, these are different languages that these people are speaking. And a language that you don't understand sounds strange altogether anyway. Let's go to Exodus chapter 23. But see, you have to know that is there in Acts chapter 2, or else when you are preparing for these holy days, people are going to accuse you of being in bondage. Oh, you keeping that old bondage. You ask them, well, how your people speak in tongues without keeping these days? Because how they get to Pentecost without Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, and the 7 Sabbaths after? See, that's one thing. That's how the teacher used to tell that you were cheating. See? There was a time or two, I got some answers off the person, sitting next to me. And the teacher knew I was cheating. She said, what's answer number 14? I hit 7. Ha ha, I think I got her, boy. I got her. I hit 7. She said, you are so right. Why don't you come up here to this chalkboard and show us how you got it? Huh? Come on up here to the chalkboard and show us how you got 7. Well, okay, okay, so what had happened was, she's like, I know what happened. You cheating off that girl sitting next to you. Show us how you got 7. 7 is absolutely correct. Now show us how you got it. That's what you need to ask them people who want to jump over and do all these things in tongues. Okay, show me how you got there. Huh? Show me how you got to speak in tongues. And now explain it to me starting at Passover. Go ahead. I'm listening. Now you about to hear some goo gobbly-goo now. But you about to hear some goo gobbly-goo now. Because they ain't keep none of those things. Yet they have arrived at speaking in tongues on the day of Pentecost. But they can't get the equation of how they got that answer. Right. Go ahead.
Exodus chapter 23 and verse 14. 3 times you shall keep a feast unto me in the year.
All right.
You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread.
Uh-huh.
You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded you, in the time appointed of the month Abib. For in it you came out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty.
None shall appear before me empty. So these are days that all males have to make an appearance before Yahweh. So we find that this, in the feast of unleavened bread, there is this appearance that men have to make. Go ahead.
And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when you have gathered in your labors out of the field. 3 times in the year all your males shall appear before Yahweh your Elohim.
All right. Now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 16. Because the same thing is said, but they're different terms. Deuteronomy 16 and verse 16.
3 times in a year shall all your males appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread,
So we got that.
and in the feast of weeks,
Huh?
and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before Yahweh empty.
And they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. So you have the Feast of Unleavened Bread. All males make an appearance in that week. There's the Feast of Harvest or Feast of Weeks. Then there's the Feast of Ingathering or the Feast of Tabernacles. So if you're reading those, it seems like there's more days that you're supposed to make an appearance. But 2 of them have more than one name. They're called by more than one term. So you have Feast of Harvest or Feast of Weeks. And this Feast of Weeks, you know it by what? No. How do you get to, why do you think they call it the Feast of Weeks? How do we count it? 7 Sabbaths, so 7 weeks. So that's your clue as to which one that one is. Then you have ingathering or tabernacles, so that you understand what all of those things are for. And that's all that we're going to do for today. I wanted us to go over those things, because as we get toward keeping our holy days, I want us to be able to go into those days with understanding, so that we understand what's happening before we get to those days. And we're going to go over this trivia at 5 p.m. So what we'll probably do, we'll for those who are listening, if you have the email and you want to go over your answers, we're going to call on the call line, and you can listen in as we go over our Bible trivia questions. That's all we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.